Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle. I'm a woman in her 30s. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm an immigrant. I moved to the US from Kansas many years ago. And I'm a tourist. I love to travel. And on this channel, you're going to find a little bit of all of those aspects. And what I'm thinking is I've lived a long, fulfilling life and I have a thing or two to share. And hopefully you learn something with the hope of building a community here at some point. So please feel free to like, comment, share, and come back. Today, I would like to discuss the importance of knowing who you are. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, if you've watched them, I spent some time back home recently in Cameroon and I ended up buying some land. It took forever to do it, but I ended up buying some land and I've been trying to secure it because you need to do that. Otherwise, people are going to steal it away, even though it's yours. The the person who sold it to you also sells it to other people. So the procedure took about like 4 months actually because the man, he's a man from the capital city, Yaoundé, the one who owned the land. He sold it to this young man many years ago. They started the procedure, but they didn't finish it. But he took the money and put the important part of the paperwork was completed, but it wasn't done. So this young man, he needed money, so he decided to sell the land, and I wanted to buy the land from him. And he still owed the other people money, so he took money from me, paid that money over to the other people, and he was ready to be done with them so that he can freely send me the land. Just to find out that the man had also sold the land to somebody else. So the man that was selling me the land had to take him to court and there was a big argument and finally at the end he ended up giving the original seller gave the man who was selling me the land a different plot of land, which luckily it ended up being at a better spot than the original one. I lost some money in the deal because I had already started clearing the land and things like that, but anyway, it's fine. So with this new land now, it was like, okay, we need to hurry up and at least secure it, which we did. We built a wall on the whole land, which it cost me a lot of money that I hadn't planned on. But I'm like, you know what? If it's something that needs to happen in order to secure it, that's fine. I'll do it. That's okay. Uh, I wake up this morning and the family member who's helping me handle all of this back home, he sends me a message and he's like, here, this, because the thought is, what something we discussed in the past was that on part of the land I'll build some apartments to rent, and then the other part of the land I'll build my house, right? So that's the extent of the conversation. So by the when we're building the enclosure, we're kind of keeping that in mind. So I wake up today and I get a message for the plan of my house. And and this is not the first time this has happened. The original land that we had been trying to buy, we the same thing happened when we started talking about it. We brought somebody over because I wanted to have some ideas of what I wanted to build on it. So I mentioned to we call it my brother that I wanted to build a house on that land, and he was like, "Okay, say no more." And I just sat home and I saw plans of a potential house for me. And we had a conversation as far as why would I get this? I never had a conversation with the architect who designed this house for me. Has zero idea of anything that I possibly want. What made you guys think that I might be interested in something like this? So at that time, he was like, "No, it's just a sketch, and to see some give you some ideas. If it's not what you want, then we'll work on getting you closer to what you want." It's like, you know what? Uh, at the time, I had the money, and I kind of had a sense of urgency, and along the way, I contracted him, and we got the plan for the house. So I wake up today, and here's the plans for another house that supposedly will be mine. And first level, when I got the message, I was just annoyed that this message would take a few seconds of my time, right? Because it's just like, where did this even come from? I, my brother and I have not talked about it at all as far as what I want. I don't know this architect. He never reached out to me. He has zero idea what I want. But he decided that this would be a good idea for the land. Does he know how big it is? I want it to be. Does he know how many bedrooms I want? Does he knows? He has no idea what I want because we have not spoken about it. And I woke up to this schema of the house that it supposedly would be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to build, and it got me so upset. I'm like, who do you think you are to give me an idea of what you think I want without getting any input from me, zero input from me whatsoever. And that's the thing is that happens in life sometimes. There are people out there in your circle or who kind of meet you like that, and they form an opinion on you and of you, and they try to put you into this mold that they think you will fit in. And if you don't have a good idea, a good understanding of who you are, you're going to get lost. You're going to get lost. And it's so important to not fit into those molds because it might not be who you are. But people, life has taught me that if you're not careful, people are going to put you in some specific molds that they have decided is where you belong. As a woman, as an African, as an immigrant, um, it is ridiculous the quantity of molds that people have tried to put me in over the years. And for the people that I care about, I will do what I can as far as correcting them a little bit. But the people that I don't care about, of course, they can do whatever they want. But I have learned over the years that people are always going to have this idea of who they think you are in their heads, and if it's not something that you want, you're going to have to fight for it in order to be able to prove them wrong. But the bottom line is that you cannot let who they think you are dictate who you think you are. And the best way to not let that to prevent that from happening is to know who you are inherently. If you don't know who you are in this world, you're going to get lost. And unfortunately, for some people, it takes a while to be able to build that identity. Um, I remember when I moved to the US originally, I was 14, and I remember coming from Africa, everything was new, everything was different, and I didn't speak the language. And my parents had a community over here that I was trying to become part of. And of course, everybody speaks English already, and you're the newest comer in town, and you have to figure that out while dealing with the high school drama and being homesick and all of that. And it was hard. And as I've mentioned in the previous video, when I'm shy, when I'm feeling uncertain, I can kind of fall upon myself and be kind of reserved. And for me, it displays to others as being conceited. So I remember a few times people just being like, "Hey, why aren't you behaving more like a kid? Or why are you acting all stuck up? And why are you doing this and doing that?" And during that time, I didn't know very much, but I knew that I had to fight as much as I could in order to be able to maintain my self identity because it was that important. Otherwise, it would have been very lost to just very easy to get lost into this culture. There's so many kids who leave Cameroon and then they come immigrate over here at a precarious age, like in their teens, and they get lost completely. They fall in with peer pressure, they will get into drugs, they will get into unprotected sex, they'll end up pregnant, they'll catch STDs, they'll be running away from home, and they just kind of go down spiral. It happens quite a bit. My dad, he loves to celebrate every event. Whenever there's a graduation and everything, he wants to have a party. He wants to bring the community together and celebrate. Because what he says is, it's not taken for it's not something we can take for granted. Because again, there's so many stories of people who are just not lucky or at least smart enough to be able to make it to the other side and get that degree. Focus on the things that are the most important in life, that are going to set you up for the kind of future that you want for yourself. And part of that is knowing who you are. And I see it at work all the time also. I have a number of people who come, they struggle with anxiety, depression, and a good part of that stems from an unhappiness of not knowing who they are. They're letting society define them. They're letting other people's opinions of them define them. They're letting their past define them. And we have to I'm not a therapist, so I can only do a tiny portion of it because when we meet is for like 20, 30 minutes at a time at the most. But I encourage them to go to therapy to be able to deconstruct those negative ideas that they have in themselves, and then be able to cope with whatever it is that has happened in the past in order to be able to build that idea in their head. That way that they can have a better, healthier images of themselves. It's a long process. It sometimes takes years, and unfortunately, some of them have to be on medications because they just cannot face themselves like that. And it's very much real, the that self perception and the mental load that comes with that in certain situations. So it's not something to minimize. It's incredibly important to have that good sense of who you are. And you cannot always define yourself by your current situation either. Sometimes, if your past was terrible, then at some point you just kind of have to cope with that. At some point in life, you have to stop blaming your parents, blaming your past circumstances, and start taking accountability for the kind of future that you want to build. Yes, there's horrible things that might have happened to you, things that should not happen to any human at all. But are you going to let that define you? It's important that you don't. Yes, horrible things have happened to you. However, despite that, you're going to become what kind of person? It's important to be able to define that. You cannot change your past. There's no way you're going to go back and just and erase it as if it was written in pencil. It's just not going to happen. But you have the accountability to be able to be like, okay, I know I'm not where I want to be right now, but I have to cope with this so that I can be able to define myself in a different way, become this other kind of person instead. We cannot let our negative futures or the negative things that people have done to us or said about us or the boxes in which they have tried to place us affect our future in that way. We just cannot give other people that autonomy over us. It's incredibly important to not be able to do that. It's possible that for some people, a lot of work needs to be able to happen in order to be able to see themselves on the other side. But until that happens, the ego is going to be incredibly fragile, and you're going to struggle because if you walk into every environment and just get ready to absorb whatever comes with that, you're going to be struggling a whole bunch. There won't be any sense of knowing who you are, and that means there's no confidence. There's going to be a whole lot of self doubt. And if you're doubting like that, then nobody's going to trust you. People cannot be like, I can count on this person because they're like, you're wishy washy. You don't know who you are. How will other people know who you are? And it's not most of the time it's not because of the people's fault for not having that sense of identity. People go through horrible things out there. In my job, I've heard so many horrible stories. I've heard so many horrible stories. But as long as you're alive, maybe you could just work on trying to see how you can heal from those that part of your life so that it doesn't define your whole life. It's not going to be easy, and it might take a few years, but as long as you're willing to be like, I choose to define who I am, nobody else gets to define who I am. And to be able to do, even if it's just 0.5% of what you need to do in order to be able to get yourself into the kind of person that you want to be, that cannot be taken for granted. And it builds upon itself. And it might seem like nothing at first, but then in a few years, it will lead to something exponential. So I will encourage you to not let people tell you what it is that you want, who it is that you are, but in order for that to not happen, for you to be like, no, I'm defining myself, you have to spend some time with yourself. You need to be able to identify your ethics, your values, your hopes and dreams, be able to cope with your traumas and be like, they do not define me, I define me. And then once you've established those, to be able to be like, okay, I know who I am. This is who I am. What everybody else is around me, it would just bounce off. I have this wall that I built, this wall of self identity, this wall of self security that everything else bounces off of. I will maybe I will listen to other people and I will choose what I need from all of those stories, and then I will what needs to water me will water me, but everything else will bounce off of me because it doesn't serve me. The things that do not serve you, you let them go. You let them go, and then you move forward. Okay, it's incredibly important. Spend some time if you need to journal. Um, um, you can find some prompts online here on YouTube or anywhere else. You can find some prompts that can help you identify who it is, what those core values are, what your ethics are, um, um, and how to strengthen those. It's so important. You need to do that if you're wanting to be able to build yourself better and have a better future and not let other people define you. Because society will, they will, if you let it happen, people will constantly try to tell you who you are. And whether it's for a lot of the time, it's not because it's the best. And along with that, it's very important to be able to get to the point that compliments and critics have the same worth in your eyes. I like to tell the story. One day at work, I I had a new patient, and the visit went incredibly well. He was so impressed by me. Oh, you're the best! I'm so happy to meet you, Michelle. I look forward to working with you. This is great, and oh man, this was such a great visit. I think it's gonna be amazing. And then we got off the phone, and I remember recording a short Instagram story, and I shared that experience, how it made me feel good, and I was like, oh man, I love what I do. And then no kidding, like within the hour, I had another patient. We had a visit, and she was an elderly lady, and at the end her assistant was meant to hang up and end of the call because I'm a telehealth employee, and the assistant didn't end the call long fast enough. So I hear this woman go, oh, this is such a waste of my time, I don't know what to do. I'm referring to the visit that we just had. And I remember I just had to, I clicked quickly, like end visit because I didn't want to hear anymore. And I remember thinking, ooh, what a way to get humbled. Because I was like, and that's the reason why you accept both compliments and critics with the same worth. Because if you give one of them too much power, it can be used against you, and we just can't let that happen. So keep that in mind. Others don't define you, you define yourself. But in order for that to be happen, you need to know who you are. So spend some time with yourself, journal, listen to music, and just kind of found some grounding, heal with the things that you need to heal from. identify your dreams, your values, and get to working on them. And even if it's just a tiny 1% every day or 0.1% every day, in order to build into the person that you're wanting to be later on, it truly makes a difference. I hope this message resonated with you. My name is Michelle. Thank you for being here. We'll talk soon.